I wanted to respond to the arrogant claim that I hear often from Catholic, which is that they are to be thanked for compiling the Bible. So usually you'll have a Catholic, if you ever challenge their views or challenge uh, their doctrine, traditions, or dogma, they'll point out to you that the only reason why you even have a Bible and you even know that traditions or whatever doctrines they have is either right or wrong is because of the Bible, and because they are responsible for compiling the Bible, then you cannot use their own work to use it against them. It's kind of the argument that they run as a way to escape the argument. But I wanted to challenge that argument a bit because I think it's one, arrogant, and two, it's not true. It's not actually not true that they are behind the compilations of the Bible. And there's multiple reasons for that. The first reason is because when they say the Bible, they are talking about the entire library of books. That's what Bible means. Bible just mean library. And they actually think that they've compiled or that they somehow canonized the entire index of the Bible books. But before even Catholic or Christians was a thing, um, the Jews already had done the work. They had the Tanakh, they had the Torah, the Talmud, the Septuagint was even a thing at the time. The Hebrew word in translated into Greek, all this was already canonized. And this is like probably 70% of what you would find in the Bible. So even if I were to grant that the Catholic compiled the Bible, they at best compiled like 30 to 20% of it. And again, even if that was true, it's not true, but even if that was true, that's not like miraculous divine inspiration power for you to do that. I mean, it's not really hard to know whether a book who claimed to be inspired or who was written by a claimed disciple of Christ has to be canonized or not. It's not very hard. You just have to look at different standards or characteristics of the said book. For example, does it even claim to be inspired by God? Um, is it consistent with the other existing books? For example, the Gospels that we have in the Bible, the four Gospels. Well, even if John was written much later, we know that it can be included because much of what John says is consistent with the other Gospels. But the Gospel of Thomas, for example, that was found much later, like in 1945, I think, is not considered a canon gospel of the Bible because this message is not consistent with what it says, and there's no questions about that. So it's not like really hard to know if a book is part of the Bible or not. After the Gospels, what do you have? You have the Pauline letters, which is like maybe 90% in itself of the New Testament. Um, you just have to look at whether the letters are consistent with each other. Does it even claim to be from Paul? And then after that, you just have other um, the Apocalypse of John, and then you have some letters from Peter, and that's basically it. I mean, it's not like hard work, or you don't need like divine inspiration to know which book are fraud or not inspired versus books that should be canonized or not. So again, to claim that they had somehow the authority or the divine authority given by God to do this work of the Bible, and therefore we should be not only thankful to them for that, but also we should recognize that they still have that authority today, is a false claim. And there's another reason also that I still don't believe that it's a good argument, because again, if I were to grant that they did, the Catholic Church did compile the Bible, well, what did they compile it for? What was the reason? Because first, they don't even believe the Bible is that important after all. I mean, they have the holy traditions that were transferred in the apostolic succession from pope to pope. So, what's the point of doing the Bible after all? It's not really important. And second, what did the church do after they so-called compiled the Bible? Did they do it in the intent to distribute it and make sure it's widely available for people to access and read? No, they chained the Bible in churches and prevented its own translation and kept the Latin translations for decades and thousands of years uh, that the people could not even understand at the point. That's why you had people who tried to translate into German and English, like Wycliffe and Luther, and they persecuted these people. So even if you claim, canonizations of the Bible, I mean, are you that proud about that side of the history that for 1,000 years you actually prevented people from having access to it because you were afraid they would, understand things on their own? I mean, you can scream compare canonization authority all you want, but at the end of the day, the history shows that even if you did canonize the Bible, you just did that, nothing else with it. You just hid the message from people. Um, and also, what I would say as another reason to say that this is a stupid argument is first to say that you have divine authority that should be followed today because of your authority then to compile the Bible is ludicrous. If I were to follow the same reasoning, then why aren't you Jewish? I mean, the Jew people had the authority, divine authority, you believe at some point given by God to be the representation of the true worship. They had the divine authority to write down the prophecy of Isaiah, Nehemiah, Jeremy, to preserve the writings of Moses and compile them all together to make what we know as the Tanakh and the Torah and the Hebrew scriptures. And so they did have that authority, divine authority given to them. So you should then believe that, according to your own reasoning, that they still have that authority today. And so you should reject Jesus Christ as the Messiah because, being the authority, they reject the Messiah. And you should also stop doing all those Christian traditions and practices because it goes against the Jewish initial divine authority. That's the stupid argument, an argument that can be run against yourself. So, um, if ever a Catholic tell you something about, oh, who gave you the Bible, who compiled the Bible, or as if like that was giving them an authority, a divine authority that they had then and they are supposed to have today still, um, then I hope that this gives you a couple reasons or counter arguments to present to them.